So in the Hadith Qudsi, Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, half of the Quran, this is authentic 100%, okay? Half the Surah Al-Fatiha is for me and half the Surah Al-Fatiha is for, and this is a famous. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Hamidani Abdi, Rahman Rahim. Then he said, let me find the, here, Hamidani Abdi. My servant has praised me. Okay? My servant has praised me. Then Athna alay Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Athna alay Abdi. He has excessively praised me. Okay, if I can say it in English that way. Then when you say Maliki Yawmiddin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Majjadani Abdi. My servant has exhorted me and praised me extremely. Okay? Then when you say Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in until the end of the surah, this is for my servant. This is a dua for my servant, and I give whatever my servant asks. Whatever he asks, I give him. But the rest of the surah is, the first few ayats are praise, and the last couple of ayats are like a dua. Okay? So half is for me and half is for my servant. Then number 5, no Nabi was given before me the two lights. What are the two lights? Surah Fatiha and last verses of Surah Baqarah. From Amana Rasul, you'll see the Imam reciting all the time, yeah? Amana Rasul bima unzila ilayhi min rabbihi wal mu'minun until the end of the surah, Surah Al-Baqarah. So these two parts, Surah Fatiha and and the last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah are known as the two lights. Okay? Two lights. Then we go into Surah Baqarah and Al Imran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, whoever recites Surah Al-Baqarah, the shaitan flees from that house which Surah Al-Baqarah is read for 3 days. And in the narration it mentions whoever recites it in the daytime, then for 3 days the shaitan will not be able to enter. Okay, any mischievous shaitanic things will not be able. This is one of the best ruqyah. Fatiha and Surah Baqarah is the best ruqyah in the world. Okay, if you can't recite it yourself, go YouTube. Check YouTube. Any reciter that you like, mashallah, let them. So 3 nights or 3 days, same thing, more or less. For 3 days you have extra protection. Surah Al-Baqarah, you must be ready inside the houses. Best type of ruqyah. You want to stay away from you want jinn protection, you want issues that you're having with maybe black magic or something. All those things will be sorted out, inshallah. One of the narrations that is mentioned inside that book. Okay, that's why I'm telling you, next week get that book. Yeah, get that. Try to get that book. Try to purchase that book. One of the narrations that's mentioned inside there talks about a Sahabi that was extremely ill, and they say it was magic, black magic. Another Sahabi, he came and done ruqyah with what? With Surah Fatiha. Now, the ruqyah that's not permissible is that which has shirk, that which has words of kufr. That is absolutely, completely not allowed. Absolutely not allowed. The person will go out of the fold of Islam if that happens. Okay. But we are allowed to do ruqyah because why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ. Quran is a shifa. Quran is a absolute shifa. Every single verse, as long as you know where to apply it, how to apply it, this is where the scholars come in, and this is where the works of the scholars come in as well. Okay? The whole Quran is a shifa. It's revealed as a shifa for you. Spiritual as well as physical. Okay? Spiritual as well as physical. Some people think, it's just a spiritual thing. It's just with jadoo. It's not with jadoo. It's with physical as well. So Surah Fatiha, he recited for 3 days and nights upon that other Sahaba. 3 days and nights. The person stood up like as if, you let go of a camel from his rope. He stood up completely well. 3 days and nights, he was continuously reciting Surah Fatiha. Because he knew the virtues of Surah Fatiha. Rasulullah called him. He said, hey, come, let's see. What did you do? Because the report went to Rasulullah. So this Sahabi came to Rasulullah and he explained, this is what I done, Rasulullah. Ya Rasulullah. Rasulullah said, you you have done such a great thing. You know, he praised him for his action. He praised him for his action. You've taken money. The person who was became well, he gave him some money because the person, he spent 3 days reciting Surah Fatiha upon this person. So he said, this money is completely halal for you. There's nothing wrong with this. This money completely halal. As a side point. Let's go inshallah. Baqarah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says Baqarah is sanamul Quran. Sanam means the peak, you know, like the peak of a mountain. Highest point of Quran is Surah Al-Baqarah. It is the longest as well. It's 286 verses, isn't it? 286 verses. It's one of the longest surahs in the Quran. And my sheikhs, when I was in Syria, when I completed Surah Al-Baqarah, so first you have to do Juz Amma. If you're reciting for Ijaza, you have to recite the Juz Amma first. Correct your Juz Amma. Those are small verses. And if you can correct the Makharij in those verses, then inshallah slowly the bigger verses won't be a problem. After I completed Surah Al-Baqarah, both sheikhs of mine that I used to go to, after Asr and after Maghrib, both sheikhs in both different masjids, both of them said that a person who finishes Surah Al-Baqarah is considered to us as an alim. It's considered to us as a scholar of Quran. SubhanAllah. And then another shaykh said, Hafiz al-Quran already. You don't even need to do the rest. Sahabas took 10 years. Sahabas took 10 years to understand every nitty-gritty, every small detail. Because they used to practice upon every single verse. Practice upon every single verse before they go into the next verse. This is Sahaba. This is how they understood. So when I say Ubay bin Ka'ab was the best of the best in Quran amongst all the Sahaba, hands down, okay? He was the best. In every single aspect of the Quran, he was the best. In the meanings of the Quran, he was the best. In the different dialects, the Quran was revealed in 10 different qira'at, isn't it? 10 different ways of recitation. If you go to different mosques, mashallah, different sheikhs will different. If you go to Egypt, or if you go to, for example, Mauritania or Morocco, Algeria, they're reciting Warsh, isn't it? If you go to Libya, they'll recite in Qalun. Different qira'at, all are mutawatir. All of them are absolutely accepted, and all of them are on the same level of tawatur. Tawatur means mass transmitted in every single generation, transmitted among so many people that it's impossible for you to discredit. The example that I give, and I'll give again inshallah when you go through Ulum al-Hadith, is the news of the Twin Towers. Who doesn't know the news of the Twin Towers? Can anyone reject the news of the Twin Towers? It came from so many sources, it's impossible for you to reject. Same thing with the Quran. The Quran was revealed from so many sources, it's absolutely impossible. No one can come and discredit the Quran in any way or form. It's understood. And all the 10 qira'at are mutawatir. The word that's used in Arabic is mutawatir. Okay. So, Surah Al-Baqarah is the sanam al-Quran, the peak, the highest point of the Quran. With each and every single verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, 80 angels came down. 80 angels came down with each and every single verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, just to us to understand how important Surah Al-Baqarah is. And it's the surah which has the most amount of rulings. You want to know about the rulings of Islam, halal and haram, divorce, and all those issues, go to Surah Al-Baqarah. That's why Surah Al-Baqarah has the most explanation compared to all the other small surahs at the back. Surahs at the back, they are Makkan surahs. They have to do with Aqidah. They have to do with the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Tawheed, all those things, Akhirah, you know, the hereafter, Jannah, Jahannam, refuting the atheists and polytheists and all those things are to do with the last, you can even say last half of the Quran, okay? First half of the Quran, majority, to do with ahkam, to do with rulings. Not to say that the rulings dominate. Rulings, the verses of rulings, maximum, even by indication, maximum, the scholars said 500 verses, no more than 500 verses. The majority of the Quran is not rulings, okay? It's a book of hidayah, guidance, inspiration, motivation. That's why you open any book of the Quran, even if Even if you recite any page of the Quran, most of the time it's talking about what? Talking about akhirah. Okay, what? Akhirah. Most of the pages. I can guarantee you, open any page. Open any page. It's one verse or another will talk about akhirah. Is that understood? Then within Surah Al-Baqarah is verse 220, verse 255, isn't it? Ayatul Kursi. Ayatul Kursi is such that Allah subhanahu this was given to Rasulullah from under the treasures of the Arsh, the throne of Allah subhanahu. Okay? Ayatul Kursi was a treasure that was given to Rasulullah from under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why there's so many benefits to do with Ayatul Kursi. After every single Fard Salah, Imam Mundiri covers it in a different chapter, he doesn't go into detail here. After every single Fard Salah, this is one thing that we should try to implement within our lives. We recite every single day after every single Fard Salah, even if you're alone, even if you're not praying with Jama'ah, okay, even if you're praying alone and you can't pray in Jama'ah, you're at work, for example, then always make this a habit. After every single Salah that I must read Ayatul Kursi at the bare minimum. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. La ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. Everyone knows this here. Everyone knows this. You must read this. Why? If you die before the next Salah, what happens? No accountability. You go straight into Jannah. Who doesn't want to go into Jannah? We've all done mistakes, isn't it? We are all gunagar. Kullu bani adama khata. Khata'un. Khayrul khata'in at-tawwabin. Yeah, Ayatul Kursi, that's one of the benefits, inshallah. Surah Yasin is known as the heart of the Quran. Everything has a heart. Without the heart, can a human being function? Possible? Not possible. It's not possible, is it? So everything has a heart, and the heart of the Quran is Surah Yasin. In another one to do with Ayatul Kursi was the leader of all verses of the Quran. So the Quran has over 6,000 verses. He's the leader, Sayyid. Okay, Sayyid of the verses of all the Quran is Ayatul Kursi. Okay, the greatest. So that one we said about Surah. That one we said about Surah, the best Surah, isn't it? Fatiha. The best verse, Ayatul Kursi. Okay. Angels came down like lanterns when Baqarah is read. This is a small story where Sahabi was reciting Surah Al-Baqarah and he could see literally with his own eyes, naked eyes, that there were angels coming down. And he got scared. He got a bit scared because he had his child with him. He was thinking like maybe he might come and attack or something. He didn't know what this was, but this was lights of angels coming towards him. Rasulullah said, if you continued reading the Quran, you would have seen, right until the morning, all the people would have seen the angels. They would have seen with their own eyes the angels. Subhanallah. So this was a virtue of Baqarah. Surah Baqarah and Al Imran are like two blossoming flowers. Two blossoming flowers that will give you shade under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, everyone wants to be under the shade of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, isn't it? Surah Baqarah and Surah Al Imran are like two flowers that will give you shade on the day of judgment when you need it the most, when I need it the most. So inshallah, we try to make that a habit. We recite Surah Al Imran and Surah Baqarah as well. The last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, I said, as well as the whole Surah Al-Baqarah, the last two verses from Aman al-Rasul until the end, 3-day shaitan protection, that we said. Another thing was, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote them 2,000 years before He created the heavens and the earth. This is the specific virtue of these two verses, Aman al-Rasul bima unzila ilayhi, until عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا وانت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. Then we go on to Al Imran, the last couple of verses at the ending of Surah Al Imran, where the Imams always recite as well. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في يتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. And you contemplate upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No. Haram for us, isn't it? Haram. What should we contemplate on? To understand the greatness of Allah, His creation. The sky, the heavens, the mountains, the oceans, the rivers, the way that He's made the earth for us, all the minerals and everything that He's created, all the trees, all the different fruits, all the different colors, all the different animals, all the different types of human beings, all the finger identity. Isn't it? Yeah. How does this become subhanallah? Such a miracle, isn't it? We'll talk about that another day, inshallah. Scientific miracles of the Quran. So the last couple of verses in Surah Al Imran, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Wailun." What does wailun mean? Destruction. Woe unto the person that recites the last couple of verses from Inna fi khalqis samawati till the end of the Surah Al Imran, and he doesn't ponder upon the meanings. Powerful, very powerful. Very powerful, mashallah. And then we said the greatest verse of the Quran is Ayatul Kursi, and it will be the leader of all the verses on the Day of Judgment. Leader of all the verses on the Day of Judgment. Sometimes we think we can't reach the rank of a Hafiz. You don't need to reach the rank of a Hafiz. That must be your ambition. Never stop that. Never stop the ambition. The ambition must be there in your heart every single time. And inshallah, if the ambition is true and you become Sahibul Quran, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, Hafidul Quran? All the narrations that I quoted to you last week, none of them mention Hafidul Quran. Intended meaning is generally Hafidul, because of the verse that he says, Iqra wartaqi. Okay? Ascend, recite and ascend. It shows he was a Hafidh. But the other virtues to do with Quran, it says Sahibul Quran. What's a Sahib? Sahaba, Ashabu Rasulillah. What's Sahaba? The companions. The companion of the Quran. The one that was like this with the Quran all his life. This is called Sahibul Quran. So on the Day of Judgment, if a person was sincere in his heart, on the Day of Judgment, a person might, because of his connection that he had with the Quran on a day-to-day basis, he will be resurrected with the Huffaz al-Quran. Isn't it? And in another verse, we know that many of the Huffaz will be thrown into Jahannam on their faces. Isn't it? Because of, he used to do it out of fame and name. People must call me this and people must call me that. Isn't it? Huh? So Sahibul Quran, remember. Be a Sahibul Quran. The Quran will intercede on your behalf. Next we go on to Surah Al-Kahf. Today is Friday, isn't it? Thursday night. Is Friday started already, according to. So, in some narrations, it comes as the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf. In some narrations, it mentions the first 3 verses of Surah Al-Kahf. Some other narrations mention the last 10 verses of the Surah Al-Kahf. Whoever recites these or whoever recites those will be protected from the greatest of all fitna. Dajjal al-A'wa, isn't it? Dajjal al-A'wa, the blind Dajjal, will be protected from the greatest of fitna. So therefore, even if Dajjal doesn't come out within our times, we're going to be protected from every single other fitna that is less than Dajjal, isn't it? Otherwise, why would Rasulullah tell us? So the ulama say that it's referring to the whole surah, because in another place it mentions the whole surah Al-Kahf. Whoever recites the whole surah Al-Kahf will be protected from all types of evils until the next 8 days. And this hadith mentions from one Jumu'ah to the other Jumu'ah. 8 days protection. protection. Inshallah, from all types of evils. All types of evils. This is extremely important for you to protect yourself from calamities, protect yourself from anything can happen. No accident can happen. You can be burgled inside your house. Anything can happen. This is extremely important to save us from all types of calamities. Yasin, we said, is the heart of the Quran. The person who recites it is going to be forgiven. It's going to be غفر له. Okay, that word comes. And recite it upon اقرأوا القرآن على اقرأ سورة ياسين على موتاكم. For those who are dying as well as the deceased. Okay, one is at the time when a person is dying. This is a mas'ala that you need to know. Many people don't know, unfortunately. The time of ignorance, unfortunately. Okay, mass ignorance. When a person is dying on the pangs of death, sakaratul maut, Allahumma a'inna ala ghamaratil mauti wa sakaratil maut, isn't it? The dua that Rasulullah says told us. At the pangs of death, the person should, another person should recite Surah Yasin. Why? Because Rasulullah says it gives him ease for the spirit or for the ruh to be extracted from the person. At that moment, you should be reciting Surah Yasin. After the mayyit passed away, he's dead, he's on the hospital bed, or he's inside the home, he's passed away. At that moment, you don't recite any of the Quran because he needs a ghusl first. After his ghusl, you can recite the Quran. After his burial, he's been put inside the grave, and then you can recite the Quran. It's sunnah to recite the Quran. In another narration, it says Surah Yasin, reciting Surah Yasin once gives the reward of 10 khatams of the Quran. When should we recite Surah Yasin? In the morning, generally it is told, the hadith, that we recite after Fajr. After Fajr. Okay? Make this a habit in your life. Recite Surah Yasin after Fajr. Recite Surah Waqi'ah after Maghrib. And Surah Mulk, which inshallah we're going to go to just now. Okay? Surah Mulk after Isha. Make this a habit. This is what the ulama tell us. Surah Mulk every night. What is Surah Mulk? Surah Mulk is known as Al-Mani'a Al-Najjiya. The one who saves. Saves from what? Saves from the Adab al-Qabr. Anyone wants to be protected from the Adab al-Qabr, he needs to recite Surah Mulk every single night. Tabarakalladhi biyadihi al-mulku wa ala kulli shay'in qadir. That's one. Surah Mulk has 30 verses, Rasulullah said. And it intercedes on the person's behalf until that person is totally forgiven. You want to be forgiven on the Day of Judgment? Read Surah Mulk. You want to be protected inside your grave from the punishment of the grave? Read Surah Mulk. Okay? Rasulullah says, my wish, my desire is that every single Muslim must memorize Surah Mulk. That he must have it inside his heart. Surah Mulk must be in the heart of every single Muslim, every single believer. This was the desire and wish of Rasulullah. Everyone should try and make an effort to memorize at least Surah Mulk, Surah Yasin, and Surah Waqi'ah. Those are famous surahs that have extra virtues. Superior, extremely superior. In another version, it says, whoever recites Surah Mulk, فَقَدْ أَكْثَرَ وَأَطْيَبَ. He has an extreme abundance of good. Inshallah, we'll stop here with the ending of Surah Mulk and its virtues. Inshallah, we'll continue. In other words, I expect you to buy the book, inshallah, Merits and Virtues of the Quran, of the surahs of the Quran, by Hafiz al-Dimyati, Sharaf al-Dimyati. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi.
أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد